Welcome to Bound by Books, a podcast across the romance genres for authors and readers and wannabe writers and people of like mind. So today I'm joined by a wonderful author and friend, Stella Price. I am Marianne Morea, and we are going to be talking today about conventions and convention season. Those of you who don't know it, Stella is an event coordinator and has been one for a decade plus. And if there's anybody who knows the ins and outs of what to expect at a convention, what you as an author should expect, and what your responsibilities are, it's Ms. Price. So I'm going to turn it over to you. And Stella, thank you for coming today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a wild, wild day, but I think we'll be doing good today.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. Pluto is in retrograde, so I am girding my loins. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and about how you got started, you as an author, you as an event coordinator, and the little pearls of wisdom you've gleaned over the years.
Okay. Well, me as an author, I've been publishing since I think 2006. So I've been in this game a long time. When I started, it was crazy. It was, New York published or small press published. There was no such thing as indie. And if there was, it was very much looked down upon. In order for you to be taken seriously, you had to be with a publisher. And of course, there was always the slings and arrows of, well, this publisher is more popular than the other publisher, so we don't like this or we don't like that. And it came into play. Yeah, it's very catty women's craziness. And I never enjoyed it. I just wanted to write. I started writing with my sister, and we published with one publisher. Well, our first book got picked up by a publisher. It took 6 months for it to get out. It was a short story. In that time frame, we got picked up by another publisher, and that one came out before it. Was kind of crazy. The original publisher, to this day, I have horrible, feelings about. They were absolutely horrible to us. They didn't like several things that in the editing situation for us, which was not fun. I remember most of you guys don't know, my sister is in Scotland. She was raised in Scotland. She is UK all the way. And so she writes very UK. And while I'm here in the States and everything, most of our characters together take place in the UK and on the continent. So when this book was published, the editor had a problem with some of the wording. And she never said that it was because of UK versus US, spellings or ideas or anything. She just told us that we were wrong.
Oh, wow. So she didn't explain it.
Nope. She told us we were wrong.
Communication. Yeah.
Yep. And so my sister getting into it with the publisher, like, no, I live here, this is right. Like, this is correct, and this is exactly how this character would speak in this situation in this country. After that, the publishers were very, very, very spiteful. The book was pretty much hidden on their website. In 6 months, that book got 3 sales. It wasn't involved in any of their promos or anything like that. And I started to see that there was a lot of favoritism in the industry. And I remember we had written our one book, our Snake Shifter book, and they didn't want it, which is cool, whatever. They had first rights refusal. It was fine. We sent it to another publisher, and that publisher was ecstatic about it. They loved it. They loved the idea of it. And it was very out of the box at the time. Yep. Yes. And we were told by the first publisher that we should be very careful on who we publish with, because not everyone was as reputable as they were. And I realized right then that the hierarchy in this industry was absolute bupkis. Flash forward to a year later, we decided we were going to go to Romantic Times. And
maybe explain to our listeners what Romantic Times is.
So Romantic Times was, because it is not anymore. Romantic Times was the biggest romance convention in the world. They got all the awesome authors and all authors. Everyone wanted to be there. It was, aside from RWA's, national chapter convention, it was the place to be seen, to find an agent, to find a publisher, to find readers. It was the place.
It was a networking mecca. I went once. I know.
And it was expensive as
hell. Yeah, it was.
And our first year that we went, we did everything in our power to be present and accountable there, to be seen. And it was great. We did really well, except for the fact that during the signing time, we were only allowed to have 20 copies of our books. And we sold through those 20 copies in 19 minutes.
Wow. Well,
and we did really, it was amazing. We were both so proud of ourselves and everything.
And you should. And RT Book Lovers Convention was no joke.
No, it wasn't.
It was a big thing.
And so second year, she couldn't make it, but I went. And again, we were limited on the amount of books that we could bring with us, because it had to do with the Barnes and Noble that they were working with, only ordering a specific amount of books. Your books had to be involved in, full distribution, all that stuff, like publisher style stuff, which was fine. And again,
which we should probably mention that with a lot of conventions, when you're having a the book signing portion of the convention, it usually traditionally had always gone through a bookseller.
A bookseller, yes, it did.
Yes.
And that was fine, but the smaller authors, small press authors and stuff were limited on the amount of books. Now you've got authors there who have a decent backlist that are, New York published, that have, 30 and 80 copies of each book that they have. They're not going to sell through that, but the bookseller ordered them, and they have these literal stacks of books next to them.
Yeah,
and it's great. It's cool, but it also screwed the rest of us because we were only allowed to bring a certain amount. And that was the year that my Were Snake novel with my sister came out. It had been on the front tables of Barnes and Noble. It had sold in 1 week's time on Barnes and Noble's front table, 559 copies. It was awesome. I was so proud of us and everything. So that year, we were going to have that. I was only allowed to have 20 copies. I sold through them in 7 minutes. Had to sit there for 3 hours with nothing on my table.
And back in the day, there was no such thing as QR codes where somebody could order and so forth. It was basically brick and mortar.
Yep. And so when I went through all that and everything, I went and found the convention director, and I said, look, I said, this is an amazing opportunity for everyone. The amount of money that we're all spending on it, we should all have the same opportunities. And these bigger authors shouldn't have millions upon millions of books sitting next to them if you don't think that they're going to sell them. It's pageantry. And the rest of us who spent the exact same amount or more to be here are not able to recoup any of that through their sales because of the fact that you have to limit us. Well, she didn't like that. She didn't like it at all. And, she's like, well, if you don't like it, then you don't have to come back. I said, all right, challenge accepted. So because I'm a spiteful person, I decided to start another event. And that event was going to be 100% fair for everyone, for every single author that came. It was not going to be something where, somebody was put over somebody else, because I am a firm believer that it doesn't matter how much money you make today, tomorrow you could fall down that ladder and you could not be in that same spot anymore. And
That's very true. We're all, as authors, we are all subject to consumer whim, to trend, to
Correct.
economics. I mean, look at the boom that happened for authors over the whole year that we were all confined because of COVID. I mean,
Yep.
book sales went through the roof because, nothing new was on television, no new movies were being made, and people were stuck inside. So, it's like, what did they do? They started reading again.
started reading again.
And,
Yep.
And a lot of us, and I know that you organized some of it, where we actually made our books free, for some people, well, not for some people, for everyone, but for certain periods of time. And
Yep.
it was a phenomenal year. I was really surprised at how much reading
Yes.
people did.
Yeah.
But this convention that morphed out of the gauntlet that was thrown down at RT back in the day, I'm assuming that was the birth of Authors After Dark.
Correct. It was. Myself, another author, Jacqueline Frank. I'm sure some of you guys know her. She wrote the Nightwalker series. She's a lovely, amazing woman. Her and I got together, and with Bianca Dark as well. We came
Love
up
Bianca.
with the idea. Me too. I love Bianca. She's one of my favorite people. But we came up with the idea of putting something together that would be fair for everybody. And it was.
It's over a decade later.
Yeah.
It's over a decade later, and Authors After Dark gave birth to how many different events now? Was Authors After Dark for a while? Four. Yeah.
Four. There's been 4 different iterations of it. Sometimes we had 2 events in a year. Sometimes we didn't have like the, let's call 2017. Myself, a bunch of other authors, and a bunch of readers went to Scotland for 10 days, which was kind of awesome.
Yes.
That was really cool because it was also the 20th anniversary of Harry Potter, which was awesome. That was definitely a fun thing. So we got to do a bunch of Potter stuff, which was pretty nice.
So let's talk about the structure of your of not just Authors After Dark, but the events that it gave birth to, which the current one now is Literary Love.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And so let's talk about the structure and how you put it together. I don't mean the minutia of reading hotels and so forth.
Oh yeah, that's always a pain.
The authors don't need to know that. Although maybe they do, because then
they might. Yeah, I think they do need to know that. They do.
But what you do for authors, what you do for readers, and how you always make it equitable and fair, and that divitude is never allowed.
Never.
And so that's something that has to be explained. And also, I can give my opinion because I am a veteran of your events.
Correct.
So let's take it from the top. We have Authors After Dark and the iterations, and now we are at Literary Love, which is now going to be in its 5th year.
5th year, yeah, 5th year.
5th year, and it is in this July 19th. It starts.
Yep,
July 20th.
Georgia. Yep, July 20th to the 24th in Savannah, Georgia. It is, with all of my events, it is reader focused, reader friendly, because I don't believe that authors should be exalted as the be all end all, because again, and I'll say this before and I'll say it more times before this is over, where you are on that ladder does not mean that's where you're going to stay. It's not about your ego, and it's certainly not about how much money you make.
No, it's about the readers.
It's about the readers, and it's about producing a product that they are going to A, buy, B, continuously support, and C, remember. That those 3 things, a lot of authors these days just they're not interested in, because a lot of them are just interested in the the money aspect of hitting up that transient reader that's going to read, that's going to say, okay, yeah, it was cool, and then go to the next thing, because that's where a lot of people are, and that's okay. The event like this is not for everybody. It isn't. And I tell people that all the time. If your focus as an author is not to create a community that is going to see you through the lean times, this event is not for you.
Yep. Career readers, the one clickers, super fans, this is the
Yes.
place where
You make them.
those types of readers can be met and can be cultivated and can be
Embraced.
Yes.
Embraced.
Cherished. Yep.
There's a big difference between a signing and a convention. And I think we need to explain that to everyone first off. Signing is 3 to 4 hours behind a table.
One day.
One day. It is you sitting there while somebody walks up to you. 9 times out of 10, you have to give them a 30-second elevator pitch, even less than that, 7-second elevator pitch. Yeah. And the possibility of selling a book at a regular 3 to 4 hour signing is about 42%. And that fluctuates up or down depending on how many people are there and how many people that are there are looking for new authors. That's a big problem because signings are costing $200, $300, $400 for a table, which is madness.
Yeah,
absolute
3 hours. Yeah,
madness. I look at it as an author, and I always have. When I look at a signing that's coming out and I see how much it's going to cost, I say, okay, can I realistically buy this table for the signing or half table or whatever it is and make back the money, the sitting fee, which is the table fee, in the 3 to 4 hours that signing is? Now, if it's a $250 table fee, that means I have to sell at $10 a book, 25 books. And I look at how popular and how much groundswell the event is getting with readers. If there is no groundswell, it means that there's going to be a few people at that event, and odds are they're going to be there for the big guys that are showing up. The possibility of me getting a sale off those people are about 1 in 7. And that's for pretty much any indie author because these are transient readers that are literally coming in to buy specific books. They have a limited amount of money, a limited budget that allows them to attend these events, which is fine, because we need both kinds of events. I'm not going to say we don't. We do.
No, because the ones that are one day, people will go to because it doesn't take up their whole weekend. It usually doesn't cost them too much skin in the game, if any. A lot of times these events that are the single one day signing only are for you could just kind of pop in and pop out. You don't have to pay for anything. Sometimes an event will have a VIP ticket where for $20, or $25, the reader can get a bag with lots of goodies and things like that. And they get priority to walk the room ahead of time. Mm-hmm. But it's usually packed with hundreds of authors,
yes.
Hundreds.
And everybody is trying to fight each other for that one person,
right?
That 1 in 7 that's going to come through and make other choices outside of what they're there for.
Right.
And that is unacceptable to me.
Yes. And I've been to those. And if you're there with author friends, you can like double up on it and make it like a networking thing for yourself with other authors. Or you could do brainstorming or make it a little mini writer retreat, because chances are if you're going to this thing, it's not in your hometown. You're still going to have to get a hotel and you're still going to have to transport yourself there.
Well, and the other side of that is that event signings, they don't encourage readers to stay around afterward. They just don't. I have an event that's coming up next year overseas, and I was asked, we were asked in the group, well, what do you guys want to do, blah, 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 after this and everything? Do you guys want to do a party? And I'm like, well, personally, I plan on spending, meeting up with readers that I know that are there and going for dinner. Well, readers don't really hang out after the event. I'm like, good God, why? I'm like, do you discourage that? Because if that's how it's going, I don't think this is an event for me. because anything that I go to, I want to spend time with any readers that come through to see me. I want to forge those relationships. And that's why the conventions are different, because the focus on it is about that connection between the reader and the author.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say that every author is this person, because there's a lot of authors that do not have it in them, for whatever reason, whether it's medical or whether it's mental or whether it's a personal life choice, that they don't want to spend time with the people that are spending the money on them. Okay, that's great. This is not an event for you.
Right.
There's authors that are not involved.
Right.
At all.
Somebody who suffers from, like debilitating shyness, or so introverted that it's coming, actually interacting with readers outside of a 3-hour signing would just debilitate them to the point where they can't function. Those are the events that you do. I mean, I look at myself as a extroverted introvert. Okay. I'm introverted in that I don't easily interact with people, but I force myself to, and I have turned myself into a extrovert when it comes to these events, to be with the readers, because you have to be there. You have to give them face time. You have to make sure that they know you on site, and then you'd be surprised. These readers, they come back year after year after year because the experience is so enjoyable for them. And I give all the credit to you for that, because you do put on a fabulous event. So I think we should get into the nitty-gritty of that.
Well, when we started setting up this event, my focus was to be a place where we could be a full community, because what RT was lacking was there was a huge disconnect between the reader and the author in general. There was things for us to all do together. There was things that were just for authors. There were things that were just for readers, and that's fine, and we do that as well. But the main disconnect of it was that certain authors felt themselves above the readership, and certain authors were down in the pit, of the readership. And I remember being at RT and sitting with readers that I had just met at a table at, I think it was the Vampire Ball. And they were just like, oh, I really wanted to meet so-and-so. And, I went up to her to talk to her, and she just completely blew me off. And knowing that, I didn't want to have an event where readers felt that way. We cater at this event to what I call career readers. Yes. These are the readers that have been reading since God was a boy. Yes. They're the ones that their parents instilled this in them early. They're the ones that in high school, they were already reading so far up. In middle school, they were reading high school level. In elementary school, they were reading middle school level. They have favorites from childhood that always come into play. And you can talk to any of these readers, and you're going to find out that Terry Goodkind is one of their absolute favorites, and Madeline L'Engle is just, it's everything to them. And you're gonna see that books like Annette Curtis Klaus's series and Orson Scott Card, all of these things that, all these books that defined them. It's not they weren't reading because it was school, appropriate and or, mandated reading. They were reading because it was important to them,
it was their choice of enjoyment.
Exactly.
The book nerds. That's what we were all called when we were in high school. The book nerds. And,
the book nerds.
It was hurled at us at the time as a slur.
Yes.
It's a badge of honor now.
Yes.
And, not just because I'm an author or because you're an author and an event coordinator, but because we are of the same ilk as
Right.
the career readers that come to the events like Literary Love.
Correct. And there are different kinds of readers. There's the career reader who have been reading since God was a boy. There are the new readers who started reading because of a specific book that got popular, like Twilight. And that's good too, because those people have found their way into this community, and they've realized that while it wasn't pushed on them, it wasn't given to them early, they do have that love and they are willing to try everything.
Absolutely.
And then you have the readers who are transient readers, and that's what I call them, because they don't stick around in people's fandoms. They don't stick around in, or they do, like they have one fandom that they absolutely love, but everything else they read is a fly by night. Does that make sense? And that's okay too, because there has to be room for everything, because
Right.
literature is not a static situation. It is ever evolving. And like I said, there's room for signings, and there's room for conventions. What gets me is when people set up signings and call them conventions, because that's not what that is.
No.
A real convention, like what we do, is 3 to 4 days. Like, think Dragon Con, think Balticon, think PhilCon, think Arisia, think any of the big events that are out there that are more than one day, that there is absolutely insane amounts of programming and together time and community. That is what we have cultivated in this community as a reader event. Each year, this event evolves. That is the easiest way to say it. It evolves to what we think we're going to need for the next year. We do crazy stuff at this event. I mean, we've had the hotel that we do it in now, because we've become a stationary event. We used to travel around. We become a stationary event. The hotel that we're in now, we've put giant inflatable slides in the atrium and had like just crazy open bar and slide time. And these readers lost it. They thought it was amazing. We've done, yeah, it was crazy. And we've done balls, and we're in Savannah, so we've done a riverboat tour. We've done just crazy stuff that you would do with friends. That is what the focus is trying to create a community where you feel like you're with your people, with your tribe on a level.
I have to say, as you're making it sound a little like it's chaotic, but there's order in the chaos.
Yes, there is always order in the chaos. I'm a Gemini, and I have a focus on everything being fun and that everyone sees everything going on, and it's just this side of overwhelming. But if you really sit down and look at it, you can find how everything fits with everything else.
Well, I mean, there's because I just got the little alert that says that we've only got 9 minutes left.
Oh no!
Yeah. So let's define the structure a little bit, so that newbie authors who are looking to be able to say, okay, this is something that I would love to be able to do, because yes, I want to have a community of readers that are going to, give my fandom a try, that they're willing to read my books and give me a try to become a super fan of me too. So the structure, as I remember, is that, after registration, there is a huge event to welcome everybody. And, I'm going to give it to you and you can take it from there.
Well, there's the welcome event. Some years the welcome event has a meal with it. Some years it doesn't. Depends on what we're planning for the full event. After the welcome in the room, there's either one of two things. We either do something as big as the slides in the atrium, or authors get together and take people out on like hearse tours and stuff. It's crazy. The next day is mostly panels and parties geared towards different genres, different subgenres depending on what we're doing. There's usually a meal in there on for lunch. Sometimes there's a meal for dinner as well. Saturday, included. Yes, everything's included. Yes. And then Saturday is definitely a brunch. Every year there's always a brunchy lunch type thing, a 3-hour signing. And then after that, there's usually a ball or some other type of setup that we do to keep everyone together and hang out. The event itself is geared towards keeping you as the author and the reader occupied, but not occupied in a sense of busy work, more occupied in a sense of togetherness. With so many other things that you can do, and there's events that are planned against each other. So if you don't feel like going to the book tea because you're not into historical fiction, you can go and do the bingo for shifters at the same time. And the readers, they are able to pick and choose what they love, and nobody feels like they're left out, I guess.
Yeah. And I know that when you say that, authors will take readers on a ghost toy, or they'll go out to dinner or something, those are advertised in a Facebook group that is dedicated specifically to the event. There's an author group, and then there's the attendee group. And the attendee group is where everybody who is registered to go, readers and authors alike, interact ahead of time so that there is enough promo, not just for, oh, this is my new book, or this is my new series, come buy my book, come visit me at my table. No, it's not just that. It's for events that you are going to get together with other authors and put together in the off hours, where if there's a space in between when lunch ends and panels begin, which is always not an awful lot of space, or if there's time in between where you don't have something scheduled, but there's a block of time, there's a space for you to be able to do something, you could do an event that is a private event, not private in the sense that it's exclusive, private in the sense that it's not on the formal schedule. So while you do have order in everything that you make available to the readers and to the authors to participate in, you do give readers and authors flexibility to do other things as well, to then cultivate and add to that community. And that is part of the reason why I come back year after year after year. And no event is without drama, and no event is without its divas and its
But we push that down.
We have. Yes,
the first thing I say at the welcome event is that you will leave your ego in your room, because nobody that is here is better than anybody else. We've all taken that road to publishing and to being there and to being here. How much money you make does not mean a damn thing to me, and it should not mean a damn thing to you. When it comes down to it, all you should care about is being here and being with those readers.
Yes. You have to make them the priority for
it. Should always, regardless, it should always be your priority anyway. You should always do everything you're doing, with them in mind. But
and because they make our lives possible.
Correct. And that's it. Exactly. They make our careers possible. And the event itself is actually one of the cheaper ones for everybody out there, even though it's days long. Readers are $200, and that includes this year because inflation and everything. We're doing 3 massive meals this year. Authors are $300 to go, and that includes their meals as well. It also includes their half table at the signing. And before anybody gets wild about, oh my God, just a half table,
it's plenty of space.
It's more than enough space. I have over 100 books in print, and if I can do it on half a table, you guys can do it too.
You don't need a whole table to spread your shit out. You don't
need a table, but the thing is by the point of the signing, there's no peacocking needed. You don't need to, put lights around your table and be like, hey, look at me, come buy stuff. Because by that point, they're already invested in you. And they just come to your table and they buy stuff because they want to support you. And
because you spend days talking to them, and they ask you about your books, and they ask you about you, and yes, it's exhausting because you have to be bigger than life, when you're with them, and you always have to be on, you have to have a smile, and you have to be positive and fun and so forth. But it pays off because
It
those
does.
readers will come to your table and they will buy. If you have 5 first in series and you are brand new to them, I have had people buy all 5 first in series and then go on to buy my other stuff.
Correct.
Every time I come to this event, I sell out.
But it's because it's the quality of the reader that comes. They
Yes.
are looking for that kind of experience. They are looking for new authors to sink their teeth into, because they're the kind of people that are reading 6 and 12 books a week.
Yes.
They need something else.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they're constantly looking. And as a new author, and I can tell you right now, as a new author, the last 2 years, if you're a first year author, out of those first year authors, we had 89% of those first year authors sell out by Saturday.
Wonderful.
I mean, that's
Now,
crazy. No one else does that.
Can people still register for the event?
Registration is open until May 5th this year. And everyone's like, yes, but it's in July. Yes, but we have a lot to do with the hotel, make sure the food's ready and everything else. So we close in May, and the hotel needs that much time in order, because this event isn't just 3 hours, it's days long.
So how can they register if they're interested?
They can register via the Eventbrite listing. And you can find that. I'm sure Marianne can put that on the listing on here, right?
I can, absolutely.
Okay, yes. Or you can go on the Facebook website, or you can go on the Facebook group, which is LLS 2022:Book Life, and they will be able to get the information from there as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will put it in the.
And we are open, and we have our registration, our author group open for 2023. That registration for that doesn't open until until August, but we have that open so the authors can start seeing exactly what we do, because we have a primer. We have a 20-page primer that we give people to say, hey, we're not trying to be crazy, but all this stuff is pretty much like it's stuff, but a lot of people need to read it. So
okay. Well, we only have less than a minute, so I just want to say thank you to Stella, and thank you for everybody for listening. And
thank you.
This is Bound by Books, and I will put all the information in the comments. So bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Stella. Thank you.
Wait, before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on our website, boundbybookspodcast.com.